Money doesn't buy you happiness. And I'm like, well, yeah, poverty doesn't buy you shit.
Are entrepreneurs born or are they made? And is it usually they're made out of adversities and hardship?
I'm going to go deep straight off the bat. We live in this world where people think that we're all independent. We made it on our own. It's absolute nonsense. None of us are self-made. We're all interdependent. Every single one of us are dependent on someone or something. He or she who brings the most value to any equation gets paid the most. You're not chasing pound signs or dollar signs. You're chasing hearts. How many hearts can you recruit? How many people can you get to fall in love with you because they know you actually give a damn about them? When you are certain, it breeds confidence. Real situations expose fake people. And I discovered a lot of that this year, I'll tell you that. Everything is beautiful just the way it is. And what does that really mean? It means
Okay, welcome, Jessen James. It's amazing to have you here. I'm feeling super, super blessed. I've been watching you probably for over a year now.
wow.
It was Rob Moore who Rob Moore came on our podcast probably back in 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And then I saw you do an awesome interview with Rob, and I was like, I really like this guy's vibe. And ever since, I've been kind of watching a lot of your content. I'm a big fan of what you talk about. I think you talk a lot of sense. And I think unlike certain people in the personal development world, the mindset space, I think like you give that kind of real raw honesty, but with love. And it's quite a hard balance to get. So I just want to first and foremost say thank you. I think you're doing some awesome stuff. You are, I believe, now an 8 times international award-winning speaker. I think it was 7 when I was promoting this, but you recently had another award. Is that right?
I popped up another one on the weekend. Yeah. It was great.
Amazing. And also a self-made multi-millionaire. And I think that's a place to start, really. As a title, as part of your identity.
Yeah.
How does that actually feel?
So I actually don't like self-made, if I'm very honest. Here's what I'm going to go deep straight off the bat. All right. I don't think any of us are self-made. I think we live in this world where people think that we're all independent. We made it on our own. It's absolute nonsense. None of us are self-made. We're all interdependent. Every single one of us are dependent on someone or something. How I made my millions was dependent on other people giving me money. So there's no self-made at all. I think in life, everyone, like I said, everyone goes like, you might go out and buy a car and go, I'm self-made. I bought that myself. I did it myself. Absolute nonsense, because it took someone to come up with the idea of the car. It took someone to design it. It took someone to manufacture it, market it, get it shipped to you, sell it to you, hook you up on finance. So you were interdependent upon a long string of things and people before that thing became yours. So when people talk about self-made, I think we need to just bring it back a little bit and remind yourselves that none of us are self-made. Everyone has been assisted in some way or form to get to where they are in life, whether you've made millions or whether you made a few hundred grand, it doesn't matter. And I think if we can remind ourselves that we're not self-made, we're interdependent, and that we're all working together, collaboration, not competition, you get further in life. So it's just my take on it. But yeah, it's a weird identity, because for me, I never grew up with any of that stuff. I don't like going rags to riches, but we generally didn't have anything, so I guess for me in that respect, I can appreciate the achievements more, if that makes sense. So because I've experienced the other side as well.
What are the main differences now, having money versus not, for you personally?
I think freedom, choices, and happiness. Am I allowed to swear?
Fuck yeah. Let's do it. Let's go straight in.
All right, that's fine. Let's get that clear before I start F-bombing now.
Yeah.
I meet a lot of people and they say to me, Jessen, money doesn't buy you happiness. And I'm like, well, yeah, poverty doesn't buy you shit. Let's be perfectly honest. What does poverty buy you? More stress, more drama, more problems, more anxiety. And people throw around these belief systems around money's the root of all evil. Absolute nonsense. A lack of money is the root of all evil. People will do some bad stuff. Money, they'll kill for money, they'll steal for money, they'll lower their standards for money. So how can money has no emotion? It's a thing, it's a tool. So I think the misuse of money can be evil, but money itself isn't evil. So for me, I think money brings happiness. However, it doesn't bring you fulfillment. And this is why you see a lot of celebrities or people who've got money go off and do charity work or open orphanages and do give back and all this kind of stuff, because the true fulfillment comes from giving, you know. So once you've made money, yes, it can make you happy, but it doesn't make you fulfilled. So I think for me, having money gives options, gives choices, and especially in the crazy times that we're living in at the moment, you know. So I think it's our duty really to go and make as much of it as we can.
So you said there, obviously you wasn't necessarily born into a family with wealth, and you didn't have all the resources, you know, necessarily financially. That said, do you think when you reflect on sort of your natural personality, maybe your childhood, on reflection, do you feel like you was always born to become an entrepreneur and born to be successful?
Yeah, I think we're all born with the same life purpose, if I'm honest. And a lot of people talk about what's your purpose. I think your primary purpose is to be happy. And a lot of us run around trying to please others, change the world. That's my purpose. No, that's your secondary purpose. Your primary purpose is to be happy. And whatever shape or form that is. And people gravitate towards different vehicles. For example, some people like a job, some people like to start a business, some people don't like working, you know, because I think people who are unemployed and cannot work because they choose not to work, that's a choice. That's what makes them happy. It is what it is. So for me, I think I was always destined to want to be happy, because that's all of us. But growing up, this actually comes back to me like around sort of 7 years old, being bullied in school, brutally honest, for color of my skin, clothes I wore. I grew up in East London. I went to school in East London. It wasn't a nice place, you know. And I used to wear secondhand clothes. My brother's hand-me-downs, things that didn't fit me. I used to wear the cheapest trainers. You know, everyone was wearing Nike Air Max and all this kind of stuff, and Reebok Classics, and I was wearing like freaking some plastic £5 trainers down the road or whatever it is. And I got bullied for all this stuff. But I genuinely feel from extreme pain comes extreme love. So what does that mean? It means that it made me not want to see suffering in others. It also triggered off a desire for wanting more at a young age. I didn't know how. I just knew I wanted more. And yeah, materialistic is what it is. I wanted more. There was a void in my life, right? So, but off the back of that, it made me learn the art of love and compassion. And what I mean is, I still don't know how this happened till today, but I remember being at school, 7 years old, going through this bullying and stuff. And there was another kid in school, really disheveled, didn't look very clean. No one talked to him, but he never had any food at lunchtime. It's really weird. He didn't have any food. I was like, how the hell does a kid, I mean, I'm looking at it back now, how does there's a kid like that go to school with no food and the teachers don't pick up on it? So I used to give him my sandwiches and go home hungry, because I knew mum would feed me in the evening. And for 2 weeks I did this, scared not to tell my mum I was doing this, because I thought I'd get in trouble. I just didn't like to see that kid suffer. And eventually I couldn't take it anymore. I went home and said, Mum, I'm starving. She goes, what happened to your lunch? Didn't you have lunch? And I told her what I was doing. So I did get in trouble, but for the wrong reasons. I got in trouble for not telling her sooner, because she started making double sandwiches for me to bring to school, you know. So I guess helping others has always been part of what I want to do, and how it makes it feels my cup, if that makes any sense, you know. But as you're growing up as a kid, you know, you whatever you feel, you try to, you know, whatever you lack, should I say, you try to fill in other ways. And for me, I lacked love at school because I got bullied. So I went looking for it in other ways by giving love to others who appreciate it, like this kid, you know. So I guess that kind of sparked my resourcefulness in myself. I started my first business when I was 11 years old, I smuggled some fireworks into the country from Mauritius on my first family trip. It was a genius plan. I smuggled them into my mum's suitcase. She didn't know. Got back to the UK. I nicked them out of her suitcase. She didn't even know what was going on. Sold them at school. Didn't last very long, because another kid started lighting them, these little Chinese firecrackers, and he lit them and he threw them off the top of a double-decker bus in his school uniform. So clearly the member of the public grassed him up, which knew which school it was. He obviously grassed his dealer up, and that business got shut down real quick, you know. So and then I went on to, I think it was about 13 years old. I don't know if anyone else used to have tuck shops in their school. We used to have this little tuck shop, and I thought, hang on, there's something going on here. They used to sell sweets and chocolates and stuff. So I used to take sweets and chocolates that my mum used to buy from home, put them in my bag and sell them in the playground. That got shut down too. So I'm not painting a good picture of entrepreneurship here right now. But I was getting resourceful. And 15 years old is when I come across my first no money down business deal. It's when mobile phones started getting popular, and with all the accessories and all that kind of stuff. And I remember walking down into a mobile phone shop in East Ham High Street in East London and blagging the owner to give me this bag of accessories. I said, look, I'll give them to me. I haven't got any money. Give them to me. I'll sell them for you. I'll bring them back, and then we'll split the money. So anyway, somehow he gave me this bag of accessories. I went to school. I sold all of them, brought the money back to him. And I remember giving him a wad of cash. And he literally like peeled, I think it was like a tenner off, and gave it to me. And I was like, what, is that all I'm going to get for all this? But later on, I learned a big lesson from that transaction. And if you're writing notes, obviously write it down. He or she who brings the most value to any equation gets paid the most. It's not a question of how hard you work. It's what value do you bring to any equation. Now, it was his shop, his risk, his stock, his money that he put on. He gave his stuff to a 15-year-old East London kid. Come on, like I could have just never turned up again. Do you see what I mean? So it's like he put up the most risk. So I got paid in according to how much risk I put in, which was diddly squat, you know, and how much value I brought to that equation, not much, you know. So I guess it just sparked for me that entrepreneurialism in me was just always kind of there, because I was fascinated by being resourceful, I guess, you know, but no one teaches that in school, you know. So
it just got me thinking then. You mentioned there being resourceful, and we know when we look at studying character traits of successful entrepreneurs, resourceful is always one. I think resilience as well is another. As you reflect, do you feel like a lot of that actually came from those kind of humble beginnings of needing to be, you know, you said there about being bullied, so you've got to build up a certain level of resilience. And it got me thinking, do you feel you'd have had the same success if perhaps you had like more privileges, i.e. you didn't get bullied, you did have money and things like this? Do you know what I mean? I'm just sort of thinking about this concept of, are entrepreneurs born or are they made? And is it usually they're made out of adversities and hardship?
I think it's a great question. And if I'm perfectly honest, I think it's both. And what I mean by that is, you mentioned Rob Moore, is my business partner and good friend. Although he pushed himself to go and make it, he actually comes from a family of entrepreneurs. Like his dad was an entrepreneur. So it had resources and had access to you know, certain things, you know, at a certain time. But like he still needed the drive and tenacity to make it work. Whereas I came from complete opposite. You know, my mum worked in the school, she was a dinner lady, my dad worked in a tax office. Like I didn't have entrepreneurial family around me or whatever, nor did I have, you know, the access to funds and all that kind of stuff. And I think for me, in terms of are they made or are they born, I think, if I'm very honest, I think it's a choice. And let me explain what I mean by this. That there's this myth going around that only 5% of the population want to be entrepreneurs. I think it's absolute nonsense. I think it's absolute crap. Like I could stop any random bloke in the street, any random lady in the street and say, hey, would you like, if I gave you a business, and it earns decent money, you work whatever hours you want, and you take as much money as you want, I can't see anyone telling me, no, I wouldn't want it. So what I mean by that is I think 95% of the population want to be entrepreneurs, only 5% do the work that's necessary or take the risks. So it's a choice. I think being an entrepreneur is a choice. Yeah, same as being an employee is a choice. Like I don't think employees are bad, otherwise us entrepreneurs wouldn't have anyone to leverage. But it's all about choices. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, are we made or is it in our DNA, whatever it might be? I guess it's a choice depending on what you want to tolerate in life. And for me, I look, everyone listening to this right now, everyone watching this right now, I know something about all of you. You're all freaking rebels, aren't you? You don't like being told what to do. Yeah. You don't like rules. You don't like being put into boxes or this, and that. And that's a trait of an entrepreneur. And I think if you tolerate that, you know, that lack of freedom, then it means you get what you tolerate. And I think a lot of people have confused entrepreneurship with security versus freedom. You see, entrepreneurship does not bring you security. It actually doesn't. It can if it's done correctly. What it does bring you though is freedom. And this is where the conflict happens. I train tens of thousands of people all across the world every single year. And I hear the same story over and over and over. Oh, I want to start my business, but they never do. They want to be free, but they never do. Why? Because they value security more than freedom. They stay in a job that pays the bills because it's safe, so they won't take the risks to go and start a business. So it's like any situation, if you've got some comfort and safety in something, you're not going to let go of it to go into the unknown, because, you know, in order for you to do that, you'd be compromising your value of security. Whereas for me, my value of freedom is so high that I'm willing to take risks. And again, it's a choice.
And what's interesting is, of course, people think employment is safety and security, but we know that that's not guaranteed either. So that's, I think it's important to sort of have that reframe and sort of reality check, I guess. What about self-belief? Because I think something that's super common when we're talking about achieving more, building businesses, becoming successful, is people lack self-belief. Do you feel that is something you always had in you, regardless of your circumstances?
No, I think, you see, the thing is with belief is people talk about this self-belief thing. I agree, you need to have some level of belief in yourself, absolutely. But the true secret to this is actually believing in something bigger than yourself. That's the true secret. Like, you can only extract so much from yourself. And what do I mean by that? It means that if you believe in your abilities to do something, great, I'm really happy for you. But do you believe in your vision? Because your vision is what you need to believe in. What's bigger than you? You've got to believe in something that's bigger than you.
And that's something that's not happened yet, right? This is believing in something where you've not necessarily got evidence that it exists.
That's my whole point. My entrepreneurial people are not seeing is believing people. We are believing is seeing people. There's a big difference. Big difference. You've got to believe something big enough to believe in it and see it in your mind's eye, you know, before. Otherwise, you'll always be waiting around, you know, because everyone is see. I'll believe it when I see it, you know, but you'll never see it. You'll never see it. So you've got to see it in your mind's eye first. Believe it. That's your vision. So you've got to believe in something bigger than yourself. And look, the other thing I'll say is this around self-belief, because it ties in with confidence. Now, anyone listening to this right now has probably been told that you need to be confident to be an entrepreneur. You need to be confident to be in business. You need to be confident to be in sales. Again, absolute nonsense. Now, yes, I might be Mr. 8 times award-winning international speaker, jumping on stages all over the world and doing that kind of stuff. But here, let me let you in on a little secret. I'm not the most confident person in the world. I'm not. I am not. I tell you what I am, though. I'm bloody certain in my ability to do what I do best. And here's the thing about that. When you are certain, it breeds confidence, because certainty breeds confidence. Please write that down if you're taking notes. What do I mean by that? It's a bit like when you're having an argument, Matt, and you know you're right. Suddenly you see the most timid person who wasn't confident, suddenly, rah, what happens? Because they're right. They're right. So when your certainty goes up, your confidence goes up. So I always say to people, look, when you're in business, there's lots of people watching this, listening to this right now, who've got great businesses, who can help others. Maybe you see your competition outdoing you right now, go, why are they crushing it? It's because they're more certain in themselves. So before you go into any sales situation, any situation that requires you to be more confident, access a state of certainty. How certain am I that I'm not selling crap to this person? How certain am I in getting this person a result? How certain am I that I can help this person? You let that certainty vibrate through you, you'll close more deals than you can ever imagine. Why? Because you'll come across confident without having to be confident.
And I think something to highlight there is that's about focusing on what you have full control over. So you have control over the level of effort that you can bring to the table. I think when people lack confidence, it's because they're looking purely at, well, I haven't made a sale yet. So and they put this sort of their self-worth, if you like, and their confidence based on what they have or haven't done, not the things they control right now in this moment. I think it's fascinating as well that your journey took you down the route of becoming a psychiatric nurse. And I know that you worked in things like a Broadmoor prison. You worked with people, self-harmers, borderline personality disorders and things like that. What was the main lessons you got out of that experience?
Treat people like people. Honestly, like again, this stems from my childhood. Like I've always cared about people and treated people for who they are. I didn't care what color skin you have or where you come from, whatever it might be. And my journey actually started on a psychiatric intensive care unit at 19 years old. Imagine being 19 years old, getting chucked onto a locked unit with patients that are detained under the Mental Health Act. It was crazy. But I'll tell you something, in my entire career, as a care assistant and then eventually a qualified psychiatric nurse, working in places like Broadmoor, some of the most secure forensic units you've seen in the world, I never once got assaulted, never once. And I'll tell you why. It's because I talk to people like they're people. Yeah, like you've got to understand this. And this is, I take a lot of my nursing lessons into business. It's about how you make people feel, caring about people, looking after people, serving them, adding value to them, being real, show them that you're compassionate. You know, it's not a transaction. I keep telling my clients all the time, you're not chasing pound signs or dollar signs, you're chasing hearts. How many hearts can you recruit? How many people can you get to fall in love with you because they know you actually give a damn about them? And this is what got me far in nursing, because I literally was so in tune with humans and not seeing them suffer that I'd do whatever. I'd stay back late. I'd give up my own time. I'd freaking, give money to the patients who didn't have any money. And I used to do whatever I could to support them, because I didn't like seeing people suffer. And that's the same in business. I don't like seeing people suffer, which is why I do whatever I can do to help them. And I'm just grateful that I've got an accounts team. Otherwise, I'd do it for free for everyone. They're the ones chasing the invoices, not me. I'm being honest. I don't care. Like when I'm coaching people, I'm not checking, have you cleared your balance? Have you paid? I don't, because I can easily go, don't worry about it. I know times are hard right now. Because I'm not interested in that, so I get my team to deal with all that stuff, because I think it affects the relationship when you're working with your clients. If you keep talking about money, again, I get that from nursing. If you start talking money with your patients, it affects your therapeutic relationship. So, I take a lot of lessons from my background in psychiatric nursing and relate them in today's modern world of entrepreneurship, if I'm very honest.
I love it. I think it just all flows as well. I feel like you said, there's happiness and fulfillment, and you can get happiness from money, but you get fulfillment from serving and from being of service. And I think, again, if you lead by good relationships and serving, money follows anyway. So I just think it's such a wholesome way of thinking about it. You're not saying, it's not good to be successful financially, but there's so much more to it. And I think that's really important. I know that you also trained in NLP as well. And I was interested in, if there's somebody kind of listening to this now that's maybe struggling mentally, that's maybe feels they're stuck in a rut, or maybe even like deeper than that, they feel quite severe anxiety, or they feel depressed, based on your experience from both the background and the training as a psychiatric nurse, but also NLP. What do you think are some of the most effective ways of dealing with those kinds of things?
Yeah, great question. And I guess I'm not your typical psychiatric nurse, because I don't necessarily believe in pharmacology. I don't believe in numbing how you're feeling through using drugs. And I wasn't the best nurse, because I used to refuse dishing out drugs at times, because I thought, talk to them. Why have you got to drug them up? Just let's talk to them. We used to have patients that get really angry, and they get super angry, and they'd go, oh, quick, give them some medication to calm them down. I'm like, no, let me just find out what they're angry for. And I just bring them in. I just look, come with me. I'll take them into their room, and they're screaming and shouting. And I'll tell them, look, get your mattress, stick it against the wall, and punch the shit out of it. And they're like, what? I said, get your mattress, stick it against the wall, punch the shit. They'll punch the crap out of their mattress, get it out of their system. And they go, oh, and I go, you feel better now? And they go, yeah, okay, good, sit down, what's up? The whole situation was drugs were avoided because I took the time out to use a non-pharmacological intervention. So that brings me on to depression. Now, I'm glad it's your podcast and not what I was doing a few weeks ago. I was on BBC Radio London, and I got in trouble because I told them how I felt about mental illness. Honestly, it was a big hoo-ha. The producers were going mad. They were ringing my agent going, where did you get this guy from? It was crazy, because anyway, the reason I got in trouble is because I actually believe depression, for example, and anxiety, they're behaviors, they're not illnesses. For example, anyone who knows about mental health will know there's a tool called a DSM-5. It's a diagnostic and statistical manual. It's what all psychiatrists use to diagnose people. You go and flip open that manual right now, and you go to depression, it will give you all the symptoms of someone who's displaying depression. So it's a checklist for doing depression. It'll go stuff like loss of appetite, tick. Not feeling like getting out of bed, tick. Socially withdrawn, tick. Poor sleep patterns, tick. Yeah, or it's basically an instruction manual of how to do depression. So what does that presuppose? If you do the opposite, you won't be depressed. So why do people get depressed? It's focus. People get anxiety and depression because of their focus. What are you focusing on in that minute, in that any given minute? For example, anyone who's depressed, you rock up to them right now, stick a gun to their head, they're going to soon forget they're depressed. Why? Because they've shifted their focus. And I used to have a laugh with my patients. Honestly, I used to joke about with them. They used to come up to me, Jessen, can you help me with my depression? And I'd be like, no, you're already an expert with that. You're doing really well. And they'd be like, eh? And they'd laugh, right? And I'm like, what are you laughing for? They'd actually laugh because I was taking the mick out of them. I was like, what are you laughing for? Go back and do depression. You were just depressed a minute ago. What are you laughing for? And they can't. They're just laughing, which proves my point. If you focus on something, you can change how you feel about it. So, so depression is for me, and anxiety is heavily based on what you focus on. So if anyone's feeling right now, look, let's be honest, what we're going through right now, some crazy times. God knows what's happening with interest rates, all kinds of stuff. The economy is going nuts. People are worried about money. Well, you get what you focus on, isn't it? So if you're focusing on a lack of money, you'll worry more. If you shift your focus to resourcefulness and how can I make more? How can I be more resilient? Suddenly things change. You start to feel a bit more empowered. So your state dictates your fate, plain and simple. Yeah. Whatever state you're in, it will dictate your outcome. So if anyone's feeling down right now, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying that, I'm not being ignorant to anxiety and all this kind of stuff. But what I'm trying to say to you is it's a behavior which presupposes if you behave opposite, you'll feel different. So shift your focus. Can you share what's going on with someone? Can you do things that are shifting your focus? It could be something as simple as watching comedies, doing something fun, listen to some music, do something that makes you happy for a change, having a relaxing bath, sticking some candles on, whatever it might be, just shifting your focus and everything else changes.
And making a choice to work at it, right? Because it's not like you just shift your focus to a comedy, you laugh and you're sorted. It might be that you are genuinely going through some serious trauma. It might, for example, grieving, somebody that you've lost. And I think as well, it goes without saying that that's an important process to go through as well, and not just ignore and not just go, oh, I've lost a loved one, let's shift my focus to a comedy. It's probably not a great idea. You need to actually acknowledge your emotions. Yeah, but I think the other side is recognizing you have to consistently work at it. So choose to get around people that are going to help you focus on positives and things like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, please don't get me wrong. Anyone listening to this, we're human. I think you need to understand that we're human, and we hear the words process your emotion. It means feel down, but don't stay there. That's what it means. It means you have to experience that grief. You have to experience that sadness. You have to, because you're human. Just don't stay there. And every now and then you need someone to come and tap you on the back and go, hey, listen, you've been down there too long now. How can we help you shift your focus? Because some people get stuck in that emotion. This is why emotions are there to help us do good things. Look, emotions aren't bad. People say like, oh, people don't want to feel guilt. I think guilt is one of the most powerful emotions we can experience. Why? Because it can help you do something better. Like if you've wronged someone right now, you should feel guilty about it, not to beat yourself up, but to go, hey, how can I make it right? Not to go, oh, woe me, woe me. No, like if you feel guilt or shame, good. I'm happy for you. What are you going to do about it now? Because that's a good thing. If you're angry, anger's very good if it's used functionally. Yeah, like you can go to a restaurant and be pissed off because you got the worst service, flip the table over and get arrested, or use that anger to ask them to pay your money back or give you a discount or make it better or whatever it might. Just what I mean? So we have choices with these emotions. It's how you utilize those emotions. That's what's important.
So you recently trained to fight in a boxing match.
Yes.
You won. So congratulations, first and foremost, for doing that.
Thank you.
Why did you do it?
Well, one of the beautiful things about being a psychiatric nurse, you can do crazy shit and no one says anything. It's fantastic. No, I get so two of my companies actually sponsor a professional boxer who's signed under Frank Warren. And his dad's also a boxing trainer, this guy. And so in my London office, which is in East London, where I grew up, round the corner is Bethnal Green, which is the home to East London boxing. So this is where this boxer trains and whatnot. And I just started getting fascinated with the sport. And initially I thought, you know what, I'll take it. I took it up earlier this year as a fitness thing. And like less than a couple of weeks into doing it, my trainer, who also is a promoter, he runs amateur nights, semi-pro nights, said, well, why don't you have a fight? And I thought, well, why? And I thought, well, I need a new challenge because there's a life beyond entrepreneurship. The challenge of what I do is it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like work. So it's almost like a lot of my friends are actually business partners. Like you mentioned Rob Moore, like we're mates, we'll go out for dinner, we'll go and do stuff together. You know, it's like I have the pleasure of mixing business and pleasure, but there's life beyond entrepreneurship. So I thought, let me try something else.
Almost like it's become too easy, too comfortable. And obviously with comfort.
No, I've made it that way. And what I mean by that, and I'll happily talk into that more later on, but I've made it that way. You've got to build a business around your way of living, not anybody else's. So I do what I want to do, and I work with people who I want to work with, so it doesn't feel like a chore, you know. But it's very easy to just get stuck in it because it doesn't feel like work, and you enjoy what you do. So it's life beyond entrepreneurship. I thought, sod it, let's do it. And he goes, great, let's do it. But he didn't give me a date, and he just said, yeah, we'll work it out. And literally, I get a phone call the next day, and he goes, right, you're fighting at the O2 Arena in 12 weeks. So I was like, why the O2 of all the places to freaking debut? And then I thought, well, how else can I make an impact with this fight? Because I went into like an incredible, my camp actually lasted 14 weeks because my fight got moved 2 weeks. So I thought, look, I just want to make a difference with this. Now, some people might know this, but my dad last year got diagnosed with dementia, mixed dementia. And it knocked him, it knocked him because he's always, my dad grew up in Mauritius. He lost his dad when he was 3 years old. And started working when he was 7, man. Like, imagine being 7 years old and starting to work. He had to go and sell bread and stuff to support his mum and his sisters and stuff. So all he's ever known is be strong. And when he got this diagnosis, it just knocked him completely. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to raise some money for charity as well, for a charity called Concern Worldwide, which helps children and younger families who have to work and are in poverty and stuff all across the world. And I thought it'd be a nice charity to do, but my dad didn't know any of this, by the way. I didn't tell him. I just told him, Dad, I'm having a fight. Do you want to come along and watch and all this kind of stuff? So cut a long story short, I embarked on a crazy journey. But I tell you what helped me win. And this is advice for all of you listening right now. Whatever you put your mind to, commit to mastery. It's really important. Commit to mastery. Why have I got 8 speaker awards? Because I wanted to be the best, man. I don't want to dick about with it. I wanted to commit to mastery. So for boxing, I was like, well, I got 12 weeks, so I'm going to get my face punched in. So I've never boxed before. I've never put on any gloves before, anything like that, you know, so I need to get this right. So I had my coach, but I also hired another coach who trains the boxer I sponsor, and he only trains professional fighters. He doesn't even train amateurs. And to make it worse, it wasn't a charity white collar fight. I'm actually, you know, it was actually an amateur fight, a proper amateur, no headgear, nothing. It was like proper get in. There was no way out. It was all in. Yeah, there's no protect. Even when I was sparring, I didn't wear headgear because I thought if you get punched in the head with headgear, you don't know what it's like to get hurt. And therefore, in a real fight with no headgear, I'll probably get whacked and probably get knocked out. So I didn't want to do that. So everything was done, you know, with the best intentions for me, but I just committed to mastery. And then got in the ring. I didn't even know who I was fighting. I actually did not know who I was fighting. Literally, I was about to do my ring walk, and my coach pops his head around the corner and he goes, "You need to punch down." I was like, "What are you on about?" He said, "He's a bit shorter than you." I was like, I've never seen this person before. So jump in the ring, won all 3 rounds. It was only a 3-round fight. I got knocked down in the second round. Got him knocked down, but he got back up. And then, yeah, but anyway, won all 3 rounds. It was great thing. But the biggest thing for me was I called my dad to come up into the ring, and then told him in front of everyone why I did the fight. And literally the whole of the O2 was in tears. It was amazing. But yeah, it was to test my parameters as well. And they say if you're not growing, you're dying, right? So I think you've got to constantly reinvent yourself. You've got to constantly push new boundaries. If you're in business, you must reinvent your business every 2 years. You have to, a minimum, every 2 years, reinvent your business, reinvent yourself, elevate yourself, change things, do new things, try new things, change your image if you have to, whatever it is, just constantly reinvent yourself. Because if you're not growing, you're dying, So for me, yeah, it was a great experience. And who knows, I'm technically undefeated. I might get back in the ring next year. Who knows?
Did you learn anything about yourself through that experience?
Oh, 100%. I put a big post out about this after the fight. You see, one of the other things that I kind of linked into, Matt, if I'm very honest, in January this year, I made a commitment, not a promise. I made a commitment to myself to practice more self-love. And that meant, when you're someone like me who gives all the time and serves all the time, it's very easy to shelve your own needs. Very, very easy to do. I'm pretty sure a lot of people listening to this are the same. They like to help other people forget about themselves. So I made a commitment to self-love, and that could be anything. That could be anything. You could, whatever makes you happy. But for me, one of those things was learning to say no more, learning to protect my own boundaries, learning to not feel bad if I didn't do something that I didn't want to do, learning to actually not worry about what others thought about me. There was lots of things, So during that whole process of the training camp, the fight night itself was like a pivotal moment for me. It's almost like I had something to prove to myself that I can do whatever I want, and I generally don't have to worry about what people think of me. But it was also like I felt like reborn that day. It's really weird. I felt like I've put a lot of time and effort into serving others and helping others. Over the past couple of years, I'll be perfectly blunt and honest, I've also had a few people stitch me up, on business deals, transactions, use me. There's lots of things that have happened, and I guess it's very easy to point fingers and blame, but I had to ask myself, how did I create this? How did I even give someone that opportunity to use me in the first place? It's because I didn't say no. Do you know what I mean? I pleased them, so I can't blame them. A lot of the times, you blame people, and a good mentor of mine told me once, whenever you point one finger at someone, there's three fingers pointing back at yourself. And so it's about what we call cause and effect. If you're on the side of effect all the time, you're always going to blame people and find excuses. But you put yourself on the side of cause and ask yourself two very important questions. How have I created this? And how can I prevent it from happening again? Suddenly you regain control and you can do something about it. So part of that journey, that self-love journey, that boxing journey, the whole lot was learning to actually be myself and say no and not feel bad about it, and actually putting my needs first for a change and not feeling guilty. But I'm warning you all, by the way, when you do this, you're going to find out real quick that a lot of people had conditions on their relationship with you. Just so you're clear. Yeah. Go and start saying no to people. You'll soon find out that these people are not real. And as they say, real situations expose fake people. And I discovered a lot of that this year. I'll tell you that.
Love that. And it's important to find out who those people are fast, right?
Oh, yeah.
So get those boundaries in place and start saying no.
100%.
There's a question that I heard recently asked by Stephen Bartlett on his podcast.
Yeah.
And I thought it was an amazing question. Now, I also think it could potentially be a really challenging question. So if you find this hard on the spot, we could always just say, I can't do it, Matt, and we'll edit it out of the podcast. But the question he asked was, what is the question that you never get asked, that if somebody did ask you it, you feel would reveal the most about you?
That is a very good question. I've never stopped to even think about it, but I suppose I've never really been asked if I get scared, or worried or afraid. I don't actually get asked that because, again, I present with certainty and people think, oh, this guy's a confident man in the world. No, so I don't really get asked that. But if I'm very honest, if you ask me that question right now, hell yeah. Like I get afraid, I get worried at times. I have these moments where I think, is this real? Is it all going to explode one day? Is that what's going to happen? If I'm doing a big deal or a transaction or something, whatever it might be, I get scared. I worry that people might judge me sometimes, and worry that I might fail and mess it up and let my family down. And I've literally in the last 3 weeks, I've launched 2 new global companies. We've just launched a global franchise, coaching franchise, and we've just launched today. Actually, we've just given birth to our brand new corporate training business. And they're big, they're huge. They're going they're going to go all over the world. And I mean, all over the world. Like, we only launched our franchise last week. We've got 23 franchisees already signed up. And that's just the beginning. Do you see what I mean? So, but I'm absolutely shitting myself right now, because I'm like, what if it fucks up? Like, what if it goes wrong? What if it this? What if I get judged? What if Mr. Jessen's supposed to be the successful guy? What if he messes up? What will people think about me? Oh, like, he's been on TV, he's been in the media, it's going to be all over the news, it's going to be blah, blah, blah. So I suppose if anyone asked me, do you get scared? Yeah, I suppose it is. And I can talk into that all day long about the things that make me scared, and I suppose that makes me more vulnerable. But I wouldn't say I'm afraid to talk about it.
Why do you think that scares you, the idea of failing, and in particular, the point you made there about being judged, that you were this guy on TV, you were this success?
Yeah.
Why does it bother you?
Yeah, I suppose because you create an identity around the levels that you start to climb up to, right? It's like, for example, anyone here who's self-employed, I reckon you'd never go back to doing a job. Or being employed, right? Because you've got an identity around being self-employed. In fact, many of you are actually unemployable, right? You wouldn't be the best employee. So you create these identities around the different levels that you get to. And when you're playing the game what I'm playing at the moment, and I'm nowhere near as successful as what I could be. I don't actually think I'm actually where I could be. I know I can be much bigger than what I am. But when you're playing at a certain level, certain decisions you make can be catastrophic if they go wrong. I've lost lots of money. I've lost money on transactions, property deals, all kinds of. I've lost. Like, for me, some people come up to me and go, "Oh man, I lost 10 grand on this property deal." I'm like, "Yeah, well, try losing 200 grand, because that's what I lost."
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like a different level. Just do what I'm saying. So it's like, when you're doing stuff like that, there's more at stake. And I guess for me, I guess now you've asked it, the real judgment for me, or the real worry for me, comes from my kids and my family going, "Hey, you messed up. You let us down."
The people you care about the most.
Yeah, you're supposed to be our provider, our supporter, and you messed up. So for me, that scares me. And I guess in a funny way, it also drives me. Because the fear of that, I don't want that to happen, so I'll do whatever I can to prevent that from happening, because that's unfortunately how our brains work. We move more because of pain, not pleasure. So I guess, it's people often say, this thing about fear, but I always tell people, be more afraid of where you are, not where you're going. Think about it. Like, if you're standing still right now and there's a car coming, you're about to get run over, I think you should be more afraid about that than jumping across the road. Yeah. So it's the same for me. It's like, I'm more fearful about not making it work than it failing, if that makes any sense, because I don't want to feel the pain attached to it if it flops. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what my interpretation of what you just asked me is.
This is Success School, and the concept behind it really is that there's a lot of things that traditional education don't really teach us properly. So with that in mind, I'm interested with your experiences now, with everything you've achieved, since school and things like that. Have you got 3 lessons that you've perhaps learned through life that you didn't learn through traditional education?
Yeah, 100%. First one is my biggest life lesson. It's also become a mantra of mine, and that is, everything is beautiful just the way it is. And if I can go back to my younger self, I'd literally get my younger self to practice that mantra. Everything is beautiful just the way it is. And what does that really mean? It means everything is happening for a reason, good or bad, it doesn't matter. There's always lessons. Something's always serving you. You know, in any bad situation, there's equal good. We just don't look for it. You know, I reckon there's loads of you listening and watching right now that can go back to a time in your life where things weren't so good, but you've picked up lessons from it now. But at the time, it was horrible. You know, so everything is beautiful just the way it is. So next time something doesn't go your way, whether it's a money issue, personal issue, health issue, whatever it might be, just stop and ask yourself, what's the lesson in this? What am I learning from this? You know, what do I need to do? What, like, there's always everything is beautiful just the way it is. Yeah. You know, literally 4 weeks before my fight, I pulled a shoulder and knee injury. And I went and saw an osteopath, and he said to me, you can't fight. You're not allowed to fight. I said, I didn't come here to get your permission. I just come here to get some treatment. Right. And but I had to reflect, what's this and this teaching me? Is teaching me to actually, you know, slow down maybe, or do it a different way, or whatever it might be. And in fact, the lesson in this was I was actually throwing my hook wrong.
Okay.
I was bringing it up and crunching the shoulder, where I should have just come in straight from the bottom. And so I was learning all these things. My knee, I was running a lot because I had to run for cardio, but that's not the only way to do cardio. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, so there's lessons in absolutely everything. So lesson number one, everything is beautiful just the way it is. Number two, stop trying so hard. Stop trying so hard. And what does that mean? Some of us are desperate for success. We're desperate for the wins. We're desperate for that job. We're desperate for that deal. We're desperate for that money. And because we try so hard, we almost become needy. Like, I need to make it. Well, needing to make it is like when you're late for work and you need a bus. What happens? None of them turn up. What happens when you don't need a bus? Two of the fuckers go by at the same time, right? So what I mean is, in business and in life, give up the need and the desire to want it all now. Like this, I'm trying so hard. I want it so hard. Listen, those things will happen to you if you do the right things consistently with enough tenacity and don't give up. You know, so it's a process. It's a journey. I guess what I'm trying to say is focus on the process, not the prize. So many of us are focused on the win, and we're deleting the process. You know, so it's a journey. Entrepreneurship is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not gonna happen overnight. You know, so don't be so hard on yourself. And the third lesson I'll give every single person watching this right now: collaboration over competition. And that kind of ties in with one of my favorite sayings, and that's relationships over revenue. Like, all of you listening to this right now, you should start building, if you haven't done so already, key relationships with people that you can grow with. Like, I'm so blessed, Matt. When I tell you I'm so blessed, like, literally, I'm not just saying this for effect. Like, my phone is full of people I know I can just call upon because I build relationships with them. And it's not just about money. Like, I'm very fortunate that, you know, yeah, a lot of my friends now are also multi-millionaires and celebs and this kind of da-da-da-da-da. But for me, I've built so much relational currency over the years that I know in my heart I can never fail, because I can always call upon someone. Yeah. And that's because I give so much. Like even now, look, I'm just going to go out on a whim here. Some of you have never heard of me before, never seen me speak before, or maybe you've just been following me for a while, haven't really met me before, never known. But I reckon if I fell flat on my backside tomorrow and I reached out to any one of you, some of you will probably go, you know what, Jess, I want to help you. And I haven't even, you know, maybe I haven't met some of you before, but it's because I vibrate on that frequency and you feel like, hey, you know what? No, he's a good guy. I want to help him. You know, some of you are going, shit, is he going to ask for money? Because I ain't got any right now. No, no. All I mean is that I think because you know I'm a giver, you want to like see me flat on my ass and you want to try and do something for me. You know what I mean? So, and that's just from this small interaction that we're having now. Imagine living like that. It's a way of life, like that relational currency. If you can all focus on collaboration, not competition, building key relationships, adding value to people. In fact, there's a book I'm going to recommend all of you read. I posted it across my socials recently, and the author reached out to me to thank me for it. It's called The Go-Giver by Bob Burg. If you haven't read that book, go and read that book. It's an incredible book, The Go-Giver, Bob Burg. And one of my team members actually bought it for me years ago. And he said, Jess, read this. And I said, what for? And he goes, it's you, man, just read it. And all the principles in that book is how I live my life. Give with absolutely no expectation of anything back. Build key relationships, add value to things, like all of these things. So learn that, because on your journey as an entrepreneur, you're going to need to pull in favors. I'm just being honest with you. You're going to need to lean on people. 80% of your success comes from other people anyway. So build that relational currency is really, really important. So everything's beautiful just the way it is. Stop trying so damn hard, and collaboration, not competition.
Absolutely incredible. And it brings us back perfectly to the beginning where you said nobody is self-made. You know, collaboration really is key. And I think that's amazing. Jessen, this has been absolute gold. I knew it was going to be good, but it was just amazing. I want to be respectful of your time, because obviously we want to get a bit of a Q&A in with our members who are here live. Just before we finish up, if people want to learn more about you, where can they find you? What's the best things they should be following to get your content? Yeah, just if you head over to Instagram, just I guess because we're on this podcast, if you go over to Instagram at @JessenJames_official, and just drop me a DM with the word success or mention Matt, so I know where you come from, and yes, let us know what, if there's anything we can add value to, support you with. I've got loads of tools, resources. There's loads of stuff that I can offer to support you free of charge. I don't need your money, but it's more about connection. So yeah, at @JessenJames_official across all platforms, really. Instagram, Facebook. I'm even on TikTok, but I don't do them funky dances. But you should do. I should. But yeah, look, just connect with me on social media, or you can go to jessenjames.com. You can reach out to me there on my website as well. So just anywhere, just look for me online. You'll find me. I also have a podcast as well. There's lots of different ways that you can get in touch with me. I just think for me, it's about connection, building that relationship. Follow me if you're not following me already. Get to know who I am. See if you resonate with my style, with my content, with what I talk about, my mission, my vision. And if there's any alignment in what you're doing with what I'm doing, then let's do it together. Amazing. Jessen James, final question before we finish. Sure. What is your definition of success? Being able to do what you want with whoever you want, whenever you want, however the fuck you want. That's my definition of success. There you go. Mic drop. Thank you so much, mate. Thank you. And that is not the end of this episode, because there was, I believe, around another 30 minutes Q&A that was had after this chat. Check out a little preview.
I'm struggling with setting the boundaries. So I just wondered how you coped with that right at the beginning, where I need to put myself first a little bit, and it sometimes misaligns with how I've been brought up. You've sold businesses, you've created them and stuff. You've at a certain level, you've got a great network, no doubt. What's your reason why now? What's your vision now? Why come on this podcast? Why want to help people? Where are you at? What's your why? What's your vision right now and today?
So my question was, how do you get over the fear of taking risks?
Are you conscious of how you're going to bring your child up, as in a spoiled manner or giving them too much?
Yeah, what a brilliant question.
So my question was, what's the hardest challenge you've overcome?
Now, all you have to do if you want to listen to the rest of this episode is make sure you get your Success School membership. And if you haven't already, why have you not? It is completely free to come and join us on a 14-day try before you buy trial. And after that, it's only £19 per month. And there are so many benefits you get once you become a member. You get to join our private WhatsApp accountability and support group. You get over 50 training videos around mindset, high performance, personal development, business, branding, marketing, sales, and so much more. And you also get to be on all our Zoom podcast recordings, where you can not only watch the podcast live, but then you can actually meet our guest, engage with them, and ask your questions to get personalized answers on the call. All you've got to do to sign up right now is click the links below this, whether you're listening on Apple Podcasts or whether you're watching on YouTube. The link is there in the show notes. Click that link. It'll take you probably 60 seconds to sign up, be a member, and you can literally continue with the rest of this podcast. But you will also get to join us immediately and get all those other benefits that I've just mentioned there as well. Just to be clear, it will ask for your payment details so that you can set up a proper account. But at the time of recording, there is still a 14-day free trial, so no money will be taken right now. You can join us If you like it after 14 days, at that point, you can become a paying member, but it's less than £5 a month. Like, this is nothing. What I'm trying to do with our Success School membership is bridge the gap between those high ticket coaching where it's thousands and thousands of pounds to work with a coach and thousands of pounds to join courses and be part of these kind of communities. I just believe that it doesn't need to cost that much to still get the quality, still get the support, the network, meet incredible people, and actually be able to learn what you need to do to keep on moving forward in your life so that you can live a happier, healthier, more successful and more fulfilling life. Click that link. I will look forward to seeing you in there. And thank you so much for being here, for listening to this podcast episode. I hope to see you next time. But until then, I will leave with the quote that I always do from famous thought leader, Mr. Jim Rohn. He said that traditional education will make you a living, but self-education will make you a fortune. Keep on focusing on that personal development, on that personal growth, on that self-education. I'll see you next time.